Hello. This video is not really intended to be public, but since it's posted on YouTube, you might randomly run into it. So my name is Dimitri. I live in Sunnyvale, California. Like my accent might suggest. And we are going to be talking about something I created for the CERT community in order to better teach the incident command system. Now this is recorded live, and because I don't have that much time doing editing on those video, and again really for sharing with a community of people that work on CERT at Sunnyvale. So Sunnyvale, California is a little bit special in the sense that there's a Department of Public Safety that combines fire and police. Not going to go into much detail, but I am part of the CERT committee here. So we're a group of people who help training people on the CERT curriculum. And my specialty is, to some extent, I would say gamification, in a sense that I developed some games, board games, as we're going to see here, to help people understand and practice ICS. And I've also done some other game on the radio practice as well. So I'm going to go through the presentation again. If you have no clue what CERT is, what ICS is, or have no interest, you're probably at the wrong place. Now I'm going to switch back, focusing to the community I'm really want to present to. So ICS, let me switch to my deck here, and my control screen is here, and my main screen is there. So you're going to see me flipping between the two on a regular basis. So I have a small deck for introduction. So the name's called ICSLand. That's an idea that I actually came up with a small group of people probably 4 or 5 years ago to help people understand the incident command system. We are going to see a mini version of the game, and I will go through the reasoning of that in this video. But I'm also going to say a few words on the larger game. So for those of you who are interested, that might be useful information as well here. So let me go there. So that's my studio, the ICSLand game series. So you can see I'm a little bit of a geek. There's a bunch of Easter eggs in this picture, so if you can find them, you can always welcome. So why ICSLand? So initially it was really to put ICS in practice without having to run a full-scale drill, if you want. And that's a 60-minute role play. It's a little bit inspired Dungeons and Dragons. So you have an instructor or a master of the game that drive a scenario. So that initial board game was called ICSLand. Now, when there has been a revision of the CERT curriculum, which actually undermined the importance of ICS to some extent, but also, as we will see, focused on a specific practice exercise in Unit 9 of the curriculum. Plus, during the COVID, we moved to more a training where our students will do the class online, and we just come to check their skills in person. So the combination of that was that I created also a shrink down version of the game to help practice the teamwork aspect of the skills evaluation for the CERT curriculum. So the full game, I'm just going to spend 30 seconds on it, but it has a large board game, as you can see here, and there are positions for the incident commander, for the planning person, for the logistic chief, and for the ops chief. And there is a set of cards you can use in the field action tracker to mark what you're doing during the exercise. And in the middle you have a map and markers, and you're placed in a situation where you have a neighborhood that you have to go after or to take care of, deploying a full incident command system. And there are, during the scenario, events like, you do a quick hazard survey and the team comes back with a down power line somewhere, people crying somewhere else, a girl alone in a fourth place, and you have to address the situation, and you're given cards which represent people or equipment and supply. So there's a whole scenario, whole game. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time on here, but and that's about a 60, actually up to 90 minutes game if you want. So let's jump into the, if you want to learn more, you have my coordinates here, my email address, and my call sign. I'm also a radio ham. Not often on the air, but you might find me from time to time. So let's drill down now into the ICSLand mini game. So it is a board game, so that's the representation of the board. And we'll see later on in this video, I'm going to switch to my table camera and I will show you all the different bill of material. And we are in a situation that this is actually an actual real neighborhood of Sunnyvale, California. So you have 3 or 4 streets, Bayview, Olive Avenue, Central Avenue, and you have Maxim Drive, and you have a number of houses, and these are the exact addresses. And interestingly enough, jumping into that, because I get this comment on a regular basis. Yes, it is confusing because there is 2 490. One is on Bayview, the other one is on Maxim Drive, but in a real case situation, there are going to be confusing things. So being capable as a team to figure out the exact address is obviously important. So we'll see more details how the scenario work, but the principle is that the idea is that, so there's a 6.7 magnitude 6.7 earthquake scenario. The players are minimum 3 players in this game. One is the team lead, which would be the IC in an ICS scenario. One person is going to go take care of the documentation, that would be planning, and one person is going to simulate. We'll see that there are tokens and markers, the execution of what you have to do. Now, what you have to do in the game is, and these are actually set by what Unit 9 of the CERT curriculum requires. You have a set of objectives that would be in a complete ICS vocabulary, the incident action plan, and you are required to determine the extent of damage, identify potential hazards, establish team priorities, and determine the resource needed. So that's the 4 main objectives per the curriculum. And I've also added one important element here that we voice several times to the teams, is you have to document everything. Because in a scenario where you are deployed as a set of CERT volunteers under the umbrella of an agency, obviously at some point you are going to transfer of command. If you want, you are going to transfer what you have done to the professionals, and you need proper documentation in order to be able to do that. So let's continue a little more in the slides, and then we're going to switch to the more complete hands-on thing. But so the game bill of material, the bomb. So there's a board. It's you can see that I'm not so fan of the Imperial system. So it's a 12 by 18 inches, which it's in fact 30.48 centimeters by 45.72 map of a Sunnyvale neighborhood. There's a set of cards for the scenario, and these are the cards that the instructor will drop to the team that will represent events, and we will see the details. There are markers and tokens, like in every game board. Those markers are used for the incident and for the teams. And there is an incident briefing, so a document that the players will use to document what they find. So when they look at the extent of the damage and identify some hazards, it's inspired by form ICS 201, if you're familiar with ICS again, but it's not exactly a copy. So it's just a kind of a framework for the players to document what they're going to figure out. Now, this is the core element of the game, and aside from that, there's an instructor guide, which I'm going to go through, and there is also an assessment guide and assessment sheet for the instructor that the instructor can use to drive the game and to also document the player's performance. So that's the introduction on the game. So without further ado, we are actually going to have a look at the instructor guide as a second step, and then we will look at the exact game in itself. So let me pull that up on my screen again and go back to my main monitor. So the instructor guide is it's a PDF, but it's also part of the game package. So in the first page, you actually have the content of the game, and we're going to jump directly into the narrative. So the narrative, as I said, is it's a 6.7 earthquake, and as a certified CERT team member, you're being deployed, and you're going to see the 4 main objectives that we talked about earlier. Again, this is very aligned with the CERT curriculum. You're going to create a team of 3 people minimum. So 1 person will be the team leader or the leader. 1 person will be, or 2 if you have, let's say, 5 players, will be chosen to document decisions and actions. That would be the equivalent of the planning chief, as I said earlier. And there will be 1 other person who is going to actually simulate the team storing the neighborhood using the board and using tokens. And I will show you that in a second. So, and we'll see how we play the game. So the instructor will select 3 locations to put some hazards, and then the team will go around using the board and document the element. So that's what you have in the game. So here you have the instructor guide and assessment sheet. We'll see at the end of this video, I will do a presentation so to see how it works. But basically you have a reset of the situation here. You have a kind of a game overview, and then you have the different actually cards you will see that you can use, and that's a framework for the instructor to check that he's following the game logic pretty well. So here you have a picture, and again you will see that in my table camera soon with the board. You see that there are the tokens with the question mark. These are where we are going to see incidents, and these are the team's tokens. So the team will receive a number of team tokens on a regular basis. And you have an example here where there are 3 hazards that have been, or things actually. It's not necessarily hazards, could be situations that have been put on the mark, and you have 1 team here ready. So the idea is you'll take the token here and you move it around the neighborhood, and when you reach this house, you say, oh, this is the house 493 on the Maxim Drive, and the instructor will drop a card and you see what it is, and you'll be asked to figure out what's going to happen. And the cards are here, and there's a location here, 425 something. So again, that's the guide. I'm just going to go through a quick walkthrough that the instructor can read and should read prior to running the game. There's a few tips and tricks. I'm not going to go into that, but they will be available to read. And here you have the example of the incident briefing. So this is what the player, the planning person, or the scribe, the person that documents, or the couple of persons that are going to be documenting are going to use. So you see that there's an exact same map of the neighborhood here, so they can actually mark when something has been filed, and they can basically here write a description of the hazard of issue and document what they've been taking, what actions they have taken. At the end, when we stop the game, usually we play this game like 15-20 minutes. Again, it's a shorter version. And the person that fill in the game will put who's been preparing and the signature. It is actually, now that I see that, a older version of the form. I will show you the more recent one. There is another box in the final version of the form that allowed the team to document who was the players and what roles they had. So sorry about that. As I said, it's a live demo, and there are still a few glitches there. And finally, you have all the different cards, but I will walk you through the different cards here and when we go during the game discussion. So now that we have seen, let me go back to here. Now that we have seen sort of the theoretical part of the presentation, I am going to show you the actual elements of the game from a physical standpoint. So let me switch to my table cam here. Okay, so you can see here, that's a view on my table from the top. So this is the board. So you see the ICSLand Mini, and you see the exact same neighborhood as I discussed. Second thing I'm going to show you is the different tokens. So the tokens are in a little box. So these are the one you've seen in the pictures. So these are the question mark here, and you have also tokens with team, and those team are numbered, and you will see in the scenario that makes sense. Initially, when you start the game, the team start with only 1 team here. So that's explained in the instructor guide. So the instructor in the beginning of the game will do the briefing and will put, let's say, we have something here, something here, something there. And so the team is given that token, and the way you would do it is you will say, well, you will simulate that. So you say, okay, you will have to decide which area you start from. Let's say that you will start from here. So the team is first deployed on Central Avenue 495. There's nothing. So move on to Olive Avenue. There is nothing. Then move on to 485, and there is something here. So when you have something here, this is where the instructor, who has these cards here that you've seen also in the scenarios, will actually be able to drop a card. So this card here, you can see it. It's basically a down power line here. So then the team will have to figure out, what do we do with the down power line? Document it, obviously, call the city for help. And later on, we will see that there are actually cards that allows the instructor to give more resources. These are actually the cards that are orange in the set here. And those orange cards, if I can organize them better, are in fact resources. So the instructor at some point can say, you have an additional team here. So what do you do with that additional team? And what you want to do, of course, you say, well, I'm going to deploy that team here to stay around here and make sure that nobody secure the area. And I'm going to let team 1 continue to go to 477, 425, 490. And then when the team reaches 485, I'm going to be able to drop another incident, which is, for example, you smell gas. So I think you can see the principle. The instructor has those cards that represent a potential situation that will need to be sized up, evaluated, and for which the team will need to make decisions. And this is indicated in the tip and tricks, but one thing that you will see very quickly often is that the team will go around and stop here and then start arguing, discussing, and all those kind of things. Now, obviously, as a instructor or coach, you need to remind them that size up, you should tour the whole neighborhood and look at everything, because even if you have a down power line here, which is a pretty important incident, you might have actually a more important incident. What I actually usually do myself when I will go through the scenario is I actually don't start with a down power line, because we teach the student that this is a very important, dangerous hazard, so it tends to freeze them. So I start with something simpler, like maybe a smell of gas or people asking for help, those kind of things. So that's the overall very quick overview of the game. I'm going to show you a little more some of the bill of material. So the instructor guide, as I explained, is a PDF. So it's part of the game packet. And usually we distribute it also as a PDF, so the instructors can go through that and have a look before they go to the game. This is the incident briefing, so that's the form that one of the players will use to actually put the description in the action. And actually, it's still not the exact right form, because the final form has, as I said, a box with the name of the player. So I probably correct that in a future version of the system. Let me check. I might have it somewhere here. Yeah, there we go. So this is the newer version. So you can scratch what I just said. So, and you see there's not a lot of big difference here. You still have the same map of the neighborhood, but you have the ability for the player to indicate the name of the players. So there are 7 boxes here, and the different roles they play, and the different hazards. Usually there's no more than 9, so that's enough. So that's the latest version of the form. And finally, this is the instructor assessment sheet. This is what the instructor will use to drive the game, and we're going to see how we put that in practice as we get started. Okay, so that's kind of the overview of the game and the different bill of materials. So let's reset the situation now, and let's say that I am the instructor. The team is here, so I'm giving the team the players their first team, which is 1 token here. And here I'm going to, if you follow the instructor sheet here, give the game overview. So the game overview is the situation is a magnitude 6.7 earthquake. You are being deployed in this neighborhood of Sunnyvale to size up the situation, identify the different damage, and prioritize what should be done, and also document what you are going to do. So the classic expectation. So this is where you start using also the cards. So the first card you drop, you ask the team, okay, who is the team leader, who is documenting, so make sure they are properly set up. So once you have done that, you have the what is your list. So a reminder of what you are expected to do. So determine the extent of the damage, identify the potential hazards, establish team priorities, and determine the resources needed. And that's so you have a way to tick the different cards here as an instructor. So if I am the instructor and I am using that sheet properly, so I just dropped the first Are You Ready card a few minutes ago. Now I just dropped the list card. I'm done. And then I am going to position the different hazards. So let's put them here, different places, as we saw earlier. And I'm going to say to the team, okay, so what are you going to do? So what the team should do is say, okay, let's go around the neighborhood. So let's say we started here, and 476. Obviously, there is nothing. Now, you need to make sure that the team has started to take this form, obviously, and started to put their name and different roles. And, well, nothing at 476, so they don't put anything. Now, you move to 490, nothing. Move to 403, nothing. Now, we are at 499. Now, there is something here. So once the team reach that position here, the instructor will choose one of the cards. So there is a downpour line card, there is a smell of God card, help, electrical fire, there's a girl with a cat, there's a bunch of them. So I'm going to choose an easy one. I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm dropping that card. Smell of gas. Okay. And in this situation, obviously, so the team should at this point say, well, I'm at 499. Here, there's a smell of gas. So they start documenting. And then the conversation should come, okay, well, yes, there's a smell of gas, but what can we do? We can report it, but we don't have any more resources or anybody. And at this point, depending on how the teams react, you can just let them continue, because they should continue to go around and assess the different damage. Or you can say, oh, you know what? Here are 2 more volunteers, and here is 1 more token with team number 5. What can you do? And in this case, well, the team could say, you know what? They are fully equipped with their backpack. They have caution tape, they have flashlight. Let's say they also have a wrench. So I'm going to deploy team number 5 with a wrench to go fix the gas leak here. So now, not everything is written in the cards of the game. So this is why I always say to the instructor, you have to get into the spirit of the game and don't get stuck on things. So if the team starts saying, oh yes, there is a smell of gas, I can see the gas meter, or can I see the gas meter? You say, yeah, you can see the gas meter, you can smell the gas. What would you do? Well, if I had a wrench, I would do this. Okay, well, assume you have a wrench. So you coach them into execution. Don't get stuck into the details. It's really, you want to see them react and prioritize. And for instance, as I said earlier, if they have only one team, you don't want to see them being stuck here. Even if there's a smell of gas, it's better to continue go around and figure out if there are more hazards. So the game and the cards are really a framework for the instructor to create a dialogue or create a teamwork between the different team members, and have them keep in mind the objective, which is, well, you have again to assess the whole neighborhood, and you have to identify all hazards. So don't get stuck on the first one. So that's the idea of the ICSLand mini game. I think we've gone through getting started and how the whole things work. So if you got it, or if you already played that game in the past, because we've been using it for a while, you can probably stop here. What I'm going to do in the last section of this video is I'm going to go through every card to give a little more color and details, so that people that are really new to the game can actually understand the cards a little better. So again, if you've been there already, you can probably drop off here, but obviously otherwise you're very welcome to stay there. So let me make a little more room here so it's easier. You can remove the board. And I'm going to look at the cards here. So the first card here is if you keep in parallel with the instructor sheet, is really the "Are you ready" card. So this one you drop once the team has a team leader. There's one person doing documentation, and there's basically one person responsible for the token moving the teams. So that's the first card to drop. Once the team is set up and they understand, they have the form, you say, okay, what do you want to do? Do you remember? You can actually discard this. They should know those 4 bullets because these are part of the CERT curriculum unit 9. So you can actually ask them, okay, in this situation, what should you do if you're deployed to a neighborhood? And if they obviously answer right, perfect. If they don't, well, you coach them, you explain them. So, but they should have all the time this list in their mind. Now the next set of cards are really, that's the your list card, are really the different hazards that you have. So I briefly show this one. There's a down power line card. So when you drop this card, what you would probably, or would you expect the team to do is to first, realize that this is a very dangerous, hazardous situation. So they should do the maximum they can about that. And you can engage this dialogue, which is, well, you might want to send people to mark the area, and you can remind them, okay, what are the rules, 100 feet away from the danger, those kind of things in the case of a down power line, and get them to really document that as well. The second hazard card you can drop is, we talked about it, smell of gas. And this one should trigger, oh, what should we do? Can we, if we know where's the gas meter, if we can see it, we can shut down the valve. That's the element. The third type of hazard is people are asking, there's a help here. So somebody has a broken leg. So the reason why this is phrased this way as well is, initially you only have a team of 2. You can't do anything. The person has a broken leg. But later on, we will see that there is a resource card that has actually an additional 4 teams, so 8 people with blankets. So you can actually deploy probably 3 teams. You might need 6 people to transport somebody, probably more 8 and a blanket, and go get that person. So you will have the ability to drop resources, and you will see that later on. So you can make the game more flexible if you want. 6-1 is a electrical fire. So this one, except marking the area as well, you cannot do much, but the picture also suggests that, it's not easily accessible. But this one should probably trigger a discussion that, if we have a direct line to the agency that dispatched us, we probably want to be, calling them or sending maybe a team or a runner, somebody to go let the city know, because this is a very, very big hazard that can probably be elevated at the level of the agency. Then we have another card, which is a girl with the cat. So it's a little girl alone with the cat. So this kind of situation should trigger something like, well, you might want to deploy a team to get the girl, put her into a safe position, maybe bring her back into the command post, which actually I forgot to mention, but it's the place with an H on the map. But again, it's flexible here. You want to see the team, reacting and explaining what would they do in this case. Another situation is you can look through the window and there is no answer. So in this case, what can you do? Different scenarios are possible here. You might get the team to enter in, and then you may need to make sure that the team asks the question that, is it safe? Are we checked? Is the building fine? All those kind of things. There's another example here, which you have a house which seems to have a pretty actually medium damage. It doesn't seem to have structural damage. So this is just a basic simple report here that the house is damaged, medium, but maybe it needs to be checked better. And then you have another set of cards which are more, I would say a little bit of more curveball. This one is you have a severe heat wave coming. So if there's a heat wave, you probably want to make sure that your team are hydrated, or you might want be actually more alert about that. So it's not again rocket science, is really to trigger them to think and to talk. This one is a little more sophisticated. It's an aftershock, because obviously if there's an aftershock, there are two things that the team the reaction of the team should be twofold. The first thing should be, let's check that whatever stage you are in the game, all the teams you have deployed are in the right conditions, are safe, basically, so nobody get injured. And it's just the team saying, okay, we will do that. And as the game instructor, you said, yeah, okay, that's fine. You have 3 teams in the field. You've talked to them, assume you have radios or whatever. And yes, they are all safe. Or you could actually, as a game instructor, say, well, one team is not answering. And that was the team that was trying to shut down the gas valve. So what would the team do? You know, if they have extra team or extra resources, maybe they can send somebody. If they can't, they just document it. So these are the core things. The last card is the one that you use to close the game, which basically means that you know, the agency, in our case, because we've done that for Sunnyvale, is DPS. DPS is taking over, so you want to make sure that you have your briefing filled in properly, which was here. So you want to make sure that the team filled that in properly. And actually, if you have the time, you could even ask them to do a transfer of command. So you said you bring another instructor colleague. We've done that a couple of times. And you say, hey, why don't you brief that person that wasn't during the game on what you've done, so you can know that. So that's a good exercise. We actually sometimes, when we have some of the officers who are observers during the day, we do the skill set. We bring them in. And we said, hey, this team has just been assigned this neighborhood, and they're going to give you the report. And you can see if the team can communicate what they have done effectively to actually a real professional. Finally, on the cards, I mentioned that there are orange cards. So you have there are basically 4 cards here. 2 are additional resources. So I said in the game setup, you usually give them just 1 team, but you can give them another team of 2 volunteers, or another 4 teams, so 8 total volunteers. And there is this kind of, you know, funny, well, at least I find it funny because I did it. You have this Amazon Prime 1-minute delivery where you can get a medical kit and some blankets. And there is another one where you can have actually another 1-minute delivery, and it's a free pass for any type of equipment and supply. So let's say, for instance, that you just got the heat wave incident, and you can, you know, drop this card and say, oh, you know what? Because there's this heat wave, I'm going to stock water, or I'm going to order water. So I mean, again, it's a game thing. So it's really to when you see that the team is starting to ask questions and say, oh, if we had this, if we had that, what can we do? You can say, hey, you know what? Here is a free pass to get whatever delivery you would need. What would you use? What would you have? So I hope this brief overview actually got you a good idea of what the game is. So for our structure in Sunnyvale, I also hope it's helpful for you to really get a good grasp on the game and run it yourself. And obviously you have my contact, and feel free to reach out for whatever question. And also comments or ideas would be more than welcome. Thanks so much for listening, and I look forward to keep on recording videos on those games. Thanks for listening.